I have also friends coming 15th. Namaste. Namaste. I have to go. I'm so sorry. You see, the moment I realized that I gave you the wrong timing, I said I would call them back immediately and have it. Ashwari said, no, 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 I will do it. And then she forgets.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then she forgets. That's why I said, why didn't you tell her? I'm so sorry, I forgot. That's my fault. I ask your pardon.
See, all we want is, we wanted to bring Abhinav and Arjun, and make you, before he leaves, he just
Because we are leaving on Tuesday, 13th, so we will not be able to make it on.
for 1 week, we will be away.
Oh,
So,
you won't be here for 15.
yeah. So we'll be on the way to Gujarat and then.
So we are dropping him
Looking
there.
forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want your blessings for him. So that's why.
Namaste. All. We're just going to have a quick summary of last week's very important page. Because in this series, Sri Aurobindo is telling us that we have to unite everything. He even uses the words alpha and omega, which are the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet. And we have to essentially unite spirit and matter. Right now they're totally apart. And so he gives us the ways to do that. And then he tells us about these great beings who obey the will of the divine, but they don't have any goal to reach because they're already higher beings. And so they're absolutely pure. Nobody can barter with them. Nobody can bribe them, even with worship. And even ignorant prayer doesn't move them at all. They don't care about virtue. They don't care about sin. And they don't even pay any attention to error and the reign of error. And why do they not do all these things because they are the guardians of the silence of the truth. And when they are those guardians and keepers of this immutable decree, then a deep surrender is their source of might. And they are motionless, almost like asleep. They're at peace, total peace. And they watch all the works of death and chance. And as they watch those things, we see that they're able to look at all the passing millenniums of this evolution. And we don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years it's been in existence. And they watch fate unrolling, and they look on our struggle because we've taken birth, but we've taken birth for a reason. If we don't take birth, we can live in that peace up there and never be touched by anything. The moment we take birth, we make a choice. I'm going to come back into a human body, and I'm going to work to purify myself, to purify the world, to transform the world. And that is why Mother and Sri Aurobindo came down, to take a human form, although they are not susceptible to our problems of humanity, they still have to go through all that we have to suffer. Because how else could they show us the way to go above ourselves and beyond ourselves? So these guardians of the truth, they look on everything with impartial eyes. And then Sri Aurobindo ends that page with, and yet without them, cosmos could not be. So if these invisible, impassive guardians were not there, we wouldn't even have a cosmos. There would be no creation. So now we'll go to the next page, which is 58. And where were we now? We talked about the dwarf search mind, which is our mind, because we've not risen into the planes of spiritual knowledge where things that are seen are absolutely true. We are people of opinion. I like this person, I don't like that person. This is right, this is wrong. And so it's a dwarf search mind. It's an inelegant mind. And yet, there's something here that he gives us, and he tells us that if they took any action or position with us in the world, their power would be destroyed. So they have to be alive to everything that's happening, and their strength is not marred because it doesn't look to save anyone. And so we are looking at the immortals, the immortal beings that don't see the way we see. Because the immortal looks on the hidden things and the screened powers. And he knows the law and natural line of things. We can't see what's going to happen tomorrow, and we hardly can remember exactly anything of the past. So we're going to find out now that as this evolution goes on, and nature in her way is experimenting, always breaking down something, building something up simultaneously, because she's always trying to improve herself. But nature is still ignorant. And why is she ignorant? Because when the Divine Mother descends, she limits her power more and more so she can be aware of this immense billions of people. And this is the game the Lord is playing. He wants to see himself in every form. He wants to see himself in the worm, in the butterfly, which has such a brief life, but it has a beautiful life. The worm is always improving the earth. And so we see that this divine intervention is like someone on a throne and looking at everything, absorbed in bliss, because bliss is the secret that has built this entire world. So now I guess we'll begin with page 59. Alive in a dead, rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a casual globe, abandoned to a task beyond our force. Even through the tangled anarchy called fate, and through the bitterness of death and fall, an outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. Now he says there's a bitterness of death and there's a bitterness of fall. Well, death for many people is bitterness, but not for those who are aspiring to do yoga. Because we understand that when the body, the mind, the heart, the life force, which we call the vital, is no longer able to progress, why should we continue to live? And now this is the problem of science. They want man to live 120, 150 years, but as the same person he was when he was 50 or 60, it would be boring, very boring. We have to change all the time. So he says, through this bitterness of death and fall, this outstretched hand, the hand of the divine, is felt upon our lives. Many times we can feel this hand. We're crossing the street, car's definitely going to hit us, and somehow he just misses us. All kinds of things like this, all kinds of accidents. If we're concentrated within, so many accidents would be prevented. It is near us, this outstretched hand. It's near us how? In unnumbered bodies and births. And that is such an important line, because we are all connected. We're all divine within us. And so this divine hand, this divine providence is near us in without number, unnumbered bodies and births. Now, he says, in its unslackening grasp, in other words, the grasp never weakens. It keeps for us safe, and this is the most important 3 lines, the one inevitable, supreme result no will can take away, and no doom change. And that next line ends with a full stop. What is it that no will can take away and no doom change? The crown of conscious immortality. That is a promise that Sri Aurobindo has made to us, and he's made it in many of his books. He has told us that those who have chosen the divine have already been chosen by the divine. We're not aware of it, and then someday it comes upon us. When I first met the mother, one of the first things she said to me is the music still with you? How did Mother know I was a musician? Nobody ever told her I was a musician. And then when the time came to start building the gardens of the Matrimondia, she said, you wouldn't like to come to Auroville? I feel you can do something there. And then she said, I want you to begin to build the gardens of the Matrimondia. She knew I was a horticulturist from an early age with my father. And this is replicated with the thousands and thousands of people that she saw every week. So this is the Godhead promised to our struggling souls. When first man's heart dared death and suffered life. Now, suffered here is a little bit different. It means allowed. Christ says, suffer the little children to come to me. In other words, allow the little children to come to me. One who has shaped this world is ever its Lord. Our errors, very important, our errors are his steps upon the way. So, because we're still in this lower stage of ignorance, we think in terms of morality. This is good, this is bad, this is a sin, this is not a sin. Not for the divine. There is no good and bad, there is no sin for the divine. Our errors are his steps upon the way. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. A vicissitude is a variation, a changing thing, something changing conditions, we could say. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our sins and sorrows and our tears. His knowledge overrules our nescience, and nescience is the state of complete ignorance. And he wants to tell us this same thing again and again in more and more beautiful words, that we are his and we are guided by him. So he begins, whatever the appearance we must bear, whatever our strong ills and present fate, when nothing we can see but drift and bale is suffering or evil, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. So we are being led every day, whether we are conscious of it or not. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. Now that has nothing to do with whether we were good or bad, whether we were sinful or upright and just. it is what it is. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. Now, why are they our inborn right? Because previously we've had in earlier cantos how we must put on the divine nature as he put on ours. We are sons of God and must be even as he. His human portion, we must grow divine. A date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown. An anniversary of the birth sublime. The birth sublime, the word birth is capitalized here. This birth sublime, for me, is each individual who has assumed a name and a form, and we understand ourselves through that name and that form. People call us by that name. They call us by the name that our parents gave us or someone else gave us. And so, in the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo tells us, each individual is in himself the eternal, who has assumed name and form and supports through him the experiences of life, turning on an ever-circling wheel of birth in the manifestation. That wheel is kept in motion by the desire of the individual, which becomes the effective cause of rebirth, and by the mind's turning away from the knowledge of the eternal self to the preoccupations of the temporal becoming. And this is a problem we all have. We get so totally involved in the things that we are doing, or in our health, or our friends' health, or our parents leaving us, that we forget sometimes the divine who is seated right here in us, seated so quietly that Sri Aurobindo calls them veils, veils that we have put in front of us that are hiding him. We have to tear apart those veils so that we can let the divine come out. Our soul shall justify its checkered walk. Now we know what a checkered walk is. We know what a checkerboard is. You go here, there, all over. And our walk is checkered. We don't always go right straight to the divine. Oh, we have a problem here. We have a girlfriend here. We have an illness here. And so it's a checkered walk, but it is always moving upwards. We call that the cycle of evolution, that the cycle of evolution never stops. Even when it seems to be absolutely still, there is still some upward movement. All will come near, that now is naught or far, naught, non-existent. These calm and distant mights shall act at last. And these calm and distant mights are those that Sri Aurobindo and Mother have brought down. He has termed it the gnosis, or the real idea, or the supramental. Immovably ready for their destined task, the ever-wise, compassionate brilliances await the sound of the incarnate's voice, to leap and bridge the chasms of ignorance and heal the hollow yearning gulfs of life, and fill the abyss that is the universe. And I'll end there today, a few minutes early. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything. Otherwise, we'll just have a few moments of concentration, and then we'll chant Om together. Om. 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 So next week will be the 14th, and it will be the eve of Sri Aurobindo's birthday. I will remember each of you on that day, and I will offer your names to Sri Aurobindo and Mother.